Hi, everybody. This is Melanie Shapiro. I'm an immigration attorney in Massachusetts, and I am here live today to answer your questions about immigration. So if you want to know anything about immigration, go ahead and send in your questions. Happy Tuesday. Today is 2/22/22, which is pretty cool. So yeah, go ahead and send in your questions. I am doing my live on Tuesday instead of Monday because it's school vacation week. So I'm sure a lot of you parents are in the same boat that your kids have been home from school. So I'm doing my lives this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. So the first question that I have is from Frank on Facebook. Frank asked me, well, I've been waiting for my visa for almost 30 years now. I have been approved twice. The first petition was by my dad and second by my brother. Dad passed away some years ago, so my brother applied for me now. Once again approved, and I've been waiting for this one with my brother for 10 years now. So that's really unfortunate that you weren't able to do the petition through your dad, and sorry about your dad passing. So the sibling petitions actually take about 14 years, which is the longest type of petition there is. So unfortunately, you still have to wait about 4 more years for your visa to become current, and then you can proceed with your sibling petition. So thank you for your question. The next question that I have is from Usman on Facebook. I'm on an F1 visa and having 2 years of job experience. I mentioned in my DS 160. I am from Pakistan. I have a 4-year degree in graphic design and 2 years into it. I am here in the USA for a master's degree and I want to study UX design. Can I change my status from F1 to EB3 to green card? How long is it going to take and how much will it cost to sponsor myself? So that's a lot of information there. So you can have, if you're in F1 and you're valid status, yes, you can have an employer sponsor you, but I'm just going to check the visa bulletin for you right now. I know that there's a limit on people applying from India. And there was recently a retrogression on employment-based visas, which means that they rolled back the time on employment-based visas, which is really unfortunate. So for EB3, we are looking at a long time for India. So I wouldn't really recommend going that route. The EB3, the final action date is January 15th, 2012. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to look at the bulletin from last month. Yeah, it was the same. So it hasn't moved. But it would take a very, very long time, 10 years for you to get the EB3. So it wouldn't make sense if you're in F1 now and you're 2 years into a 4-year program to then try to do the EB3. And in order for you to sponsor yourself, let me just look at the base. So there's a bunch of different categories for employment-based green cards. So you would be looking at EB1, EB2, EB3. So EB3 is for skilled workers, professionals, or other workers. And basically, with this, like I mentioned, it would take about 10 years for you. Doesn't sound like you would be eligible for the EB2 right now because you're still doing your program and that's only for advanced degrees. Something you might want to look into is possibly an H-1B, though the time it's a lottery. So if you were to be able to finish your degree and then you have a year of OPT, during that time you might have an employer who's willing to sponsor you for an H-1B, and that would be a 3-year temporary employment visa that's renewable a few times. So that could potentially be an option for you. Thank you for your question. So if anybody is just tuning in, my name is Melanie Shapiro. I'm an immigration lawyer in Massachusetts, and I do my lives usually Mondays and Wednesdays at noon. I'm doing a special live this week. So I have a question here on Facebook. Good morning, Tina. Shafiq says, can you please tell us about P2? So the P2 referral process, I don't really know that much about what's happening with it right now. So a lot of people in Afghanistan, when the US pulled out and the Taliban took over, are now in really dire conditions. We did a ton of humanitarian parole cases. We still don't have any decisions on those cases. There's a serious backlog on humanitarian parole, and same thing with the P1 and P2 referrals. So I did do a few P2 referrals, and they're pretty easy to fill out. And if you qualify for them, if you've had some connection with U.S. government agencies or U.S. NGOs, you might qualify for that. It's a good option for people who don't quite qualify for SIV, the special immigrant visas, but potentially qualify for the P2. So for the P2 referrals, generally this is a 2-year process. So I'm just pulling up the designation for that. So to be eligible for P2, you have to be, it's for Afghans who did not meet the minimum time in service for SIV, like I mentioned. If you don't qualify for SIV, you might qualify for the P2 program. And it's for Afghans who worked for the US government or US government funded programs like NGOs, or Afghans who are employed in Afghanistan by US media organizations. So you basically, for this, need a letter from one of these organizations that is a qualifying organization or agency, proving this relationship that you worked for the US government, that you worked for a US funded NGO, or that you worked for US funded media. And then you also have to fill out this like Excel spreadsheet about yourself, your family members, provide supporting documentation, and like your CV, proof of your employment. And then you send it to an email, and they begin the P2 processing. So, that's how it's working. I haven't heard much updates on the P2. I don't think that there's any sort of decisions that are being made. So I hope that helps answer your question. Tina says, do you have a suggestion how I can get an answer from USCIS? I'm over processing times. I've reached out via email with no response. I spoke with someone that was going to have a level 2 agent call and nothing. Tina, I feel you. The USCIS hotline is basically useless, so that's not going to get you anywhere. If you go onto the uscis.gov website and check case status, you can enter your receipt number, and then you can it'll bring up the status of your case, and then you can request a case status inquiry through the website. And if you've already done that to no avail and you're not having a lot of success, what you can do is you can reach out to your congressional liaison. So every US senator or representative's office has an immigration liaison. Well, most of them do. And you can request assistance in finding out what's going on with your case. And depending on what type of case it is and where you are in that process, you can also sue the government with what's called a writ of mandamus to force action on a severely delayed case. And so that I would recommend, so you said you've done the USCIS website. What type of case is it, Tina? So I would say, the congressional office is probably your next best bet. And it really just kind of depends on how long. It's an I-130. All right, yeah. So there's also a new update that might be useful to you. There's, you've done the case status inquiries, try the congressional liaison, but there's also a way you can try to expedite cases if there's some sort of humanitarian issue, if there's a medical crisis, if there's a financial issue. There's new guidance from USCIS on how to expedite cases. So that could be an option for you too if the congressional liaison doesn't work. But hopefully that'll work out for you. You just go onto the website for the congressional office, and usually there's constituent services information, and you can call and reach out you'll have to fill out a privacy release form and provide information on the case, but I have had some success that way. Thanks for your question. The next question I have is from Parwana. Hi, Ms. Shapiro. When are you checking the documents we sent your email? If this is for Afghan cases, I am not able to do any more Afghan cases, and I'm really sorry about that. But the funding that we had for the Afghan cases for humanitarian parole, we switched the funding from that to helping people with food and medical supplies in Afghanistan. And also just bear in mind with humanitarian parole is very difficult, and you have to, there's heightened requirements for humanitarian parole for Afghans. And also I filed 60 cases. I haven't had one decision back yet. You also have to be outside of Afghanistan to complete the processing. So if you have sent me an email about Afghan humanitarian parole, I'm very sorry, but I've received hundreds and hundreds of emails about it, and I am just not able to do any more of those cases at this time. And I will update everyone as soon as I get any decisions on my cases. I'll let you know. I have a couple that definitely qualify for the heightened standards, and I really hope that those will get approved. But we don't know anything at this point. So thank you for your question. Let me see the next question. And go ahead and send in your questions. I'm happy to answer your questions live. The next question I have is from Hama on Facebook. Said, I am living in the USA for the past 26 years. I am paying my taxes. Is there a way that I can get a green card? So this is a very good example of, you should set up a consultation with me so that I have all the information. Tina says, do you have experience with 212-601? Yes, I do. I've done lots of waivers. If you want to book a consultation with me, Tina, or anyone else on here, there is a link on my bio, I believe, on Facebook. So you can book directly through the website. You can call us at 781-461-0100. And you can also email us at info@melanieshapiroesq.com, or send us a message on Facebook, and then we'll be able to, set up an appointment for you. I am taking a couple days off this week because it's school vacation week, so I'm spending some time with my daughter, but I'm here today and tomorrow in the office. So I think we might have a couple spots available today. Maybe one spot today, and then maybe we might have some time tomorrow, but otherwise I'll have some more time next week. So thank you for your question. Let me go back to the questions that we received. Okay. The next question that I have from Hema on Facebook. Oh, right. So, or Hema Carmen, right? So you've been living here for 26 years. You're paying your taxes. Is there a way to get a green card? I don't know. It depends on your circumstances. So for example, it depends on how you enter the US. Did you enter, with a smuggler? Did you enter with a visa? Have you ever been arrested? Do you have family in the United States? If so, who's your family? What is their status? Are you afraid to return to your country? Do you maybe qualify for asylum? Or have you experienced any violence in the United States? Could you potentially be eligible for a U visa or VAWA? So there's a lot of things that we have to consider in terms of figuring out if somebody's eligible for a status, if they've been here for a really long time and they're undocumented. So I definitely recommend that you set up a consult so we can try and figure out if you're eligible for something and what can we do for you. The next question I have is from Syed on Facebook, is asking, someone told me if your I-45 is not active, you won't get your EAD. Is this true? So if your I-45 is not active, that would mean that it was probably denied. So then, yeah, of course, you wouldn't be able to renew your EAD because you don't have a pending case. If you're, I don't know when else your I-45 wouldn't be active. So I would say that it would only be if it was denied, then you wouldn't be able to renew your EAD based on that. I have a question here from Isabel. Hi, Isabel. I have a conditional permanent residency applied to take out the conditions. Do I have to wait for USCIS to answer, or can I apply for my citizenship once I have the 3 years? You can actually apply for your citizenship once you have 2 years and 9 months. You can at least send in the paperwork so that it'll get processed and be ready once you hit the 3 years. As long as you are still married, then you can do this after 3 years. And it makes sense because right now the processing times for the I-751 is about 2 years, maybe a little bit more. So they're basically taking forever. So you do wind up accruing those 3 years while you're still waiting for your conditional permanent residency to remove the conditions. Thank you for your question. The next question that I have is, I'm just looking for the screen here. Okay, great. Let's see. Coda on Facebook asked, my case has been closed since 2012. Do I have a chance to get it reopened? So in order to have a case reopened, you have to show that there are new circumstances, new evidence that wouldn't have been previously available at the time that you filed your case, or there's a change in circumstances like a serious change in country conditions or something. So you can file a motion to reopen if any of those are true for you. So just for everyone to know, if you need to file a motion to reopen for your case, whether it's with USCIS or with the immigration court, you have to file within 30 days. But there's exceptions for change circumstances, for new, like change in country conditions or change in your personal circumstances, potentially in certain circumstances. And you can also request something, if you're in immigration court, to be open sua sponte, which means that the judge can open it on their own. Sua sponte means on its own. So I'm doing a motion to reopen right now for someone because there's a new case law that would mean that if the new case law was applied, that there would be a chance that the case would be decided differently. So that's another situation where you might be able to do a motion to reopen the case before the immigration court. Thank you for your question. I'm just gonna check over here. Okay, so I have another question. Let's see if there's one on the Facebook. Okay, cool. So I have another question here from Irene. She said, my 21-year-old son received a denial for his F1 visa. We filed an I-290B motion to reopen. On July 20th, 2022, we finalized the 180 days, and then he will be penalized if he goes out of the USA and tries to come back. We have employers willing to sponsor a J1 au pair visa or an H-2B or H-1 visa. Is it possible to do any of these within the US? We are from Costa Rica. All the rest of the family are 6 nieces and nephews, 6 siblings, parents are legal with visas, permanent residence in process, etc. So I would say, Irene, we should probably have set up a consultation so we can discuss your son's case and see what makes the most sense. Because if, for example, he has an immediate relative, a U.S. citizen parent, or you know, a spouse, or you know, then we could potentially look at doing a green card application that way through the family petition, and then he wouldn't have to leave. He could say, well, that's pending. But the other ones are kind of dicey. So I think we should discuss that one further. Thank you for your question. Andrea on Facebook says, my husband, myself, and my daughter, who is 8 years old, are permanent residents and about to meet the 5-year requisite. Do they need to fill out 3 separate? Yes, 3 separate N400s. That's right. So what I usually do for families that are filing petitions at the same time Everybody has to do their own separate petitions, yes, but you could file them. If you do the M400 online, that's fine. But if I were to do it in paper for any type of case where it's a family, I usually just send everything in one box or one giant envelope to USCIS to attempt to have them all adjudicated together, but it doesn't always work that way. All right, thank you for your question. The next question that I have is from Sepal on Facebook. My wife and two minor sons came to the US from Bangladesh in September 2021 with a visitor visa, and I also came in US March 2020 with a visitor visa. On the other hand, I, as a Buddhist religious minority in Bangladesh, filed a refugee case in the US on August 2020 and included information in my case, including the names of my wife and two sons. Can my wife and my two sons be named in my case now, or do I have to file another petition? No, you can actually include them now in your case. You have to send another I-589 to USCIS and just adding their information, their passport photos, birth certificates, proof of their relationship to you, and you can update USCIS and have them acknowledge that they're now derivatives in your case. And then once they send you the receipt notice for that, then you can use the receipt notice to then apply for their work permits. Thank you for your question. The next question, I'm just checking on Facebook. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and send them in. Tina says, have you ever worked with Montenegro? My husband is originally from Yugoslavia, but it no longer exists. Tina, I have been to both Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, so I love that area. It's so beautiful. Have I worked with Montenegro? Not specifically, but I've worked with a lot of US embassies in different countries. Isabel says, how can a person become a resident after having DACA? Well, there is the Dream and Promise Act that is before the Senate right now. Do I think it's going to pass? I have no idea. But if it did pass, then that would mean that people who have DACA right now would be able to become permanent residents basically right away. But, believe it when I see it. So in order to become a permanent resident, now you could either have a company sponsor you for employment, or you could have, say, a family member, if you were married to a US citizen or permanent resident, that they could then apply for you. Or if you have children who are over 21 who are US citizens, if your parents are US citizens, those are primary ways that you could do it. If you also wanted to try, if you were afraid to return to your country, if you've been persecuted, you can file for asylum. So it just depends on your circumstances. I have a question from Andres. Says, oh, I'm a permanent resident. My wife is a US citizen and she has very severe depression. I really need to help take care of my kids. Is there any way to request any kind of visa for my brother, maybe a humanitarian or service visa for him to help me with the kids? Well, I'm sorry to hear about your wife. That's very difficult. But the humanitarian visas right now are tied up with all these Afghan surges of cases. I don't think that will be very easy. It depends also if your brother wanted to come in on a student visa, he could potentially help you with the kids and also go to school. Or you could maybe think about if he just wants to come for a period of time while your wife is trying to get better, then he could come in for 6 months to visit. You could potentially extend that up to a year. But I think those would probably be the only options. So thank you for your question. Let's see. Okay. Oh, if he is in the USA already helping me with my job, and the house and the girls, and he has the 180 days of extra time. Yeah, we can file to extend his stay up to 1 year, so an additional 180 days. I looked into this for another person recently, and it was a very similar situation, but you cannot bring them in on a J1 because that goes through an agency, and they have to be a certain age. And so I think one of the things, if he's already in the US, that would really help is if he could apply for school and get a student visa. We could do a change of status from visitor to student potentially, and then he could stay while he's going to school. And after he graduates from school, he gets 1 year of the opportunity to work in his field, and then potentially he could be sponsored by a company. So yeah, just get in touch with me. We can set up a consult and figure something out for you. On YouTube, hello, Salim says, company sponsorship based on a COVID patent. Can we proceed based on this? If yes, could you let me know about the next step to take? Salim, thank you for your question. We can definitely look at that. So why don't we set up a consultation? You can give me a call at 781-461-0100, and then we can see if we can help you out with that one. Thank you for your question. Naveen on Facebook asks, how long does it take to sponsor a spouse from another country? I'm a US citizen. It takes about 1.5 years. It's a 3-part process. So you start by filing the I-130 marriage petition. And then after that, once that's approved with USCIS, it goes to consular processing through the National Visa Center. And that takes some more time. And you have to fill out some applications, upload some documents. And then ultimately, it's an interview with the US Embassy in your spouse's country. And then they enter as a permanent resident. Then the next question I have is from Jimmy on Facebook. I am a British citizen. I overstayed for 8 years in the USA. How can you help getting a legal status? Call me and also set up a consultation. There's the link is in the video. The link is on Facebook through Calendly. You can set up a consult, or you can call us at 781-461-0100. I have a question from Barry on Facebook. I've been living in California for 3 years. I have a number, but I don't have a social security number. I need a social security number. How can you help me? First of all, you can apply for an ITIN number, an individual taxpayer identification number, and you can use this to pay your taxes. And we can also do a consult and figure out if you qualify for anything where you can also apply for a work permit and a social security number. Aisha on Facebook, I applied for asylum, but I have missed my biometrics. Now it's 2 years. Please, I need your help. Is there something I can do? Yes, schedule a consult with me. I will look at your documents and see if we can help you with your biometrics and your case. Then I have on Facebook, let me see. Just want to make sure I'm getting everybody's comments here. Let's see. I have a question. Oh, Andre said his student visa got denied. Well, maybe you can book a consult and we can look at the paperwork, and I can look at why was the visa denied and if there's anything we can do about it. Andrea said, same case as Andres, their siblings. His F1 was already denied. Can you guys tell me why the cases were denied? And then Shafiq said, can we change Afghan P2 case to Canada immigration refuge? Tell us about this. And I'm not sure about that. You can, I don't do Canadian immigration, just American. So I'm not sure about that. But if you were to get outside of Afghanistan and go register with UNHCR, the UN, the refugee UN High Commissioner for Refugees, then you would be able to register there. And then you just get placed in whatever country you are eligible to go to. But it is about a 2-year wait time for that. So thank you for your question. Then I don't see any more questions right now. So if you have any questions, let me know. I think that might be all of the questions. So again, you can set up a consult with me if you want to discuss your cases further. And you can just send us a message on Facebook, or you can book directly through the link in the bio on Facebook, or call us at 781-461-0100. And let's see. Oh, Andrea said another comment here. Okay. If someone already had their F1 visa denied on January 21st of this year, when does this person become illegal in this country? Is it true they have 180 days without a penalty? It's 180 days after their visa has expired, their authorized stay. So if they entered on a visitor visa, there's a duration of status that they enter, and on the visa it tells them when they're able to stay until. So if they entered with ESTA, it's 3 months. If they entered with a visitor visa, it's 6 months. And so the 180 days starts accruing after their 6 months or 3 months has expired. Even if they have already applied for that F1, I would go based on when they first entered and 6 months or 3 months after that. And then the penalty is that they would be subject to a 3-year bar after 180 days. And if they overstay for 1 year, it's a 10-year bar. Andrea also says, who can apply for humanitarian visa? What are the conditions? So you could attempt to do something called parole in place, depending on how urgent the conditions are. Usually it has to be very serious. If you want to just, Andrea, take this offline with me and we can talk more about the situation, I could try and figure something out for you guys. All right, thank you for your questions. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I will be back tomorrow again to do another live around noon. All right, take care.